see if we can do this today. This is a inverter board for a Dell monitor. It's specifically the Dell 2007 WFPD. It's a widescreen VESA mount, nice little monitor, and actually it's a pretty big monitor. It's an interesting one. It's older. It has DVI, VGA, S-video, as well as composite video. It's a pretty robust little display for a almost full HD resolution. And I like using it. This is the inverter board. Here is a bulged cap and a bulged capacitor and a not bulged capacitor, and these are replacements from DigiKey, which meet the same specs as the original capacitors based off the data sheets that I looked up, and you know, it's pretty much cheaper to buy 10 of them than it was 3. I'm not going to leave this one on. I'm going to go ahead and replace all 3 of them, and hopefully this works without having to adjust the trim capacitor too much, or the trim potentiometer there too much, because I do not know what I'm targeting if I needed to adjust that trim pot. So that is typically used to adjust the inverter output, and they put those on there because capacitors are, you know, all slightly different. There's tolerances that they're manufactured to, but anything within that plus or minus 20% tolerance counts as okay. So then you sometimes have to adjust depending on how good your product actually is. So what we're going to do first here is we're going to unsolder those 3. I have already marked orientation in that all of the negative sides of these polarized capacitors are pointing towards this side of the board with these 4 connectors instead of these 2. So it shouldn't have to be difficult to get them in the right spots. I'm going to get out the soldering iron and let it warm up. Just retinning it lightly here, because it was really bad, folks. And if your soldering tip is that bad, you should probably retin it. So I coated the whole thing with rosin flux, and that's why it's smoking. I'm going to opt for using a water-based flux if I can find it. Looks like I may have some pipe sweating, and I don't have it up here, so I'll just clean up with alcohol. Not a big deal. There's plenty of alcohol around here. So what we're going to do first is use our wonder tools to desolder the pieces that need to be removed, and then once we have those off, we'll solder our replacements in. So I'm going to use my 20-year-old rubber ball, and I'm going to constantly keep making sure I'm hitting the correct components here. You know what? I'm just going to skip the bulb. We're going straight to the wick. Voila. That one is removed. So that's one down. And the other side of the board, you'll notice, is nice and clean, so we don't even have to worry about that. We didn't mess up the vias. Everything looks good. So we got 2 more to go here. Hang on. What we are dealing with. little bit of 90% isopropyl. Okay, 91. Go big or go home, right? This stuff cleans this stuff right off. Amazing how well it cleans it off. Okay, so we took our diagonal cutters here and trimmed off the leads. I'm just going to wash the whole board here with some isopropyl alcohol. Give it a little cleanup, because it's a little nasty. I have to pay special attention around that, around the spots where I had that flux. And I'll have to make sure the board is good and dry before I even try to plug it in and work with it. Otherwise we'll... Oh, crud! Spilled a lot of my left... Oh, dude, that's gonna ruin my alcohol. Ah! Man, I don't have a whole lot of that left. It's kind of a bummer. Ooh, it's cold, too! The evaporation's amazing. And then we've got a guy over here. So I'm just taking the opportunity to clean this whole thing up while you got it apart. Don't do the job halfway, right? Honestly, some of this might help to identify other parts that may have fried. I don't think anything else fried. I think it's just dirty. Like, and the amount of shmoo on here from the original flux is just unreal to me. Like, I guess we shouldn't be surprised that the capacitors blew with the amount of shmoo that's on this board. Like, just pretty crappy. It's not very clean. Alright. Last little wipe here. Gotta be careful with this because darn leads like to shred Kleenexes and other soft cloth things, and I don't like that. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of residue on here yet. I'm probably not going to be able to get it all cleaned off. So, with that, it is pretty much what it is. We hope there's not enough current leakage to cause a problem. Because if there is, we have a problem. I think we're good here. Pretty dry. Top side looks good. Only one way to tell if it's going to work. Plug it in and see if it turns on. Okay, we are moving on to phase 2, which is opening the display. We've got to get the back off so that we can get to the electronics piece. I'm going to do something I normally wouldn't. I'm using my impact driver because my hand tools are all downstairs. So I have taken this apart once recently, so I know what it takes to get in here, and it's going to look like I'm breaking it. You have been warned. What you do is you get those 4 screws out of the back, set your screwdriver down, and you move over to a flathead or a spudger or a knife or any other device that you can find that can get in around this outside edge and pry. I used a screwdriver last time. This time, I might use a screwdriver again. Maybe a knife. Maybe I'll just use a knife. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with that. Hey, look, here's the screwdriver I used last time. Perfect. And I just have a small flat head. The trick with this is to get in here and to start in the middle, not at the outside edge. Just want to pop that in there. We'll try not to scratch your stuff up though, so I'm going to lay it down so I've got better. There it is. Pull up on the inside loop while you're doing this, and you feel where the little latches are. So it's just these little plastic latches on the outside edge, and they come out when you pry outward on the, oh, what is the back of the monitor. There we go. Okay. What we'll do is we'll do the same over here. See how that pries up? There we go. Now, the other side is always easier. But yeah, I would pull up with your fingertips and do that. Now, you gotta be careful with this part. As you can, just kind of go around the outside there. And you don't want to pull this all the way off. There's still a wire in here connecting the buttons at the front. So you just kind of want to loosen it all the way over until you feel it like that, and then you pick it up, you flip it. Try not to push everything back together when you flip it, right? And the back comes clean off. Now, in case you pull too hard, there's this down here. This is what goes to the buttons on the front. So if you pull that out, you're kind of screwing yourself over. Don't pull that out. Inverter board goes over here underneath all of this, so we have to pull these up. There are these little tab things on each side that slide. So what we'll do is we'll just pull those up, slide that off. Hey look, a circuit board. You will need to disconnect this cable. These guys, slide it up, no problem. 2 cables here, you will need to disconnect these cables. Just undo them. It's no big deal. We'll get to that one later. This stuff, leave it alone, don't touch it. Take the spring and the button and set them off to the side where you'll know where they are. This guy here, a little more of a pain in the butt. Tabs up here, slides up, comes right off. These are your inverter pieces, okay? Thankfully, all of these only go in one way, so it's pretty easy to get. Now, once we have all of those removed, there are 4 Phillips head screws on the outside. One down here. By the way, I'll be very careful when I put this back in, since I'm using an impact driver. I'm going to put all of my shielding pieces up here. They only go one direction, and they all fit. So, if something does not fit, you must quit. Is OJ dead yet? I don't remember. Ought to be. Gotta edit that out. Okay. So once you get that, actually you probably don't need to undo that, but I did anyway. This whole section comes up. Hey, guess what? You don't need to undo that cable over there. Ha! This USB cable, just put that right back where it was. I am an idiot. Here we go. Now, notice this thing's undone. I didn't put mine back together last time when I took it apart. That thing was kind of a pain to get off. Okay, inverter board. 2 Phillips head screws for the inverter board. in there. That's going nowhere. Where are you going? Nowhere. Okay, inverter board's back in. So now, get to try to connect everything back up, which is not going to be easy because of this guy right here. It has to go in with tenderness and care. There, he locked right in. Free that guy from underneath. Thread these dudes up through here. All I care about is getting the connector through the hole at this point. I care about connecting it. Okay. So now we have all the things back where they go. Plug this guy. Again, 4 Phillips head screws. Go back in the outside edges. Do not over tighten. These will strip. If they do, you're going to have a bad day. Not to mention, you don't want the impact driver to break glass. You'd have to work probably to break the glass, but I don't think it's worth the risk, personally. Okay. There go those things. Put your spring, your button, and your shielding plates back on. So we've already got that guy. He flattens out, punches in, don't lose your button. This guy's kind of a pain. You got to make sure these two things get engaged down on the side. Let's connect these up first. They should only fit in one orientation. So if it doesn't go in easy, it doesn't go in. Here we go. There we go. Now these guys are not high current, they are high voltage. So you want to make sure you don't pinch them. There we go. This guy over here is pretty plain Jane stuff. It's all low voltage DC for USB ports. So it's not that really big of a threat. Alright, put the back on. Make sure your button's in place first. My process, I like to snap the outside edge. There. Make sure our points are secured. Now this monitor previously did not power on. So if I can flip it over and get power, then we're good to go. Let's see if we do that before our phone runs out of battery life. Okay folks, moment of truth right here. No magic smoke yet. Hey, that's interesting, that came on already. Oh, that button's being depressed. Huh. Well guys, looks like we fixed it. Check that out. We didn't get that before. Fantastic. So this is the display post-operation, and desktop is extended nicely over, so I am quite pleased. Very happy. Well worth the $1 of capacitors and $2 or $3 in shipping. So awesome.